Hi, I'm Maddie and welcome to the Anti-Alienation Project. Here I talk about all things related to a certain type of severe child psychological abuse called parental alienation. What is parental alienation? This is something that I went through for 20 years, starting around the age of 9, ending around the age of 28. So parental alienation is basically when one parent, one angry parent, manipulates their child to reject their other loving parent without true justification. This leaves long-lasting destructive effects on the child. And while this is a very common form of abuse, the strange thing is that not many people actually know what it's called. Since I figured out the truth 2 years ago that I'd been alienated by my mom from my dad for 20 years, I've been speaking out about this form of abuse. I've been raising awareness, reconnecting with my dad, and forming a coalition of adults who have been through this as children because we need to speak out for the millions of other voiceless children. 2 days ago, all of a sudden, so many people started sending me this video by a lady named Teal Swan, who I don't even know who this woman is, but apparently this woman is talking about parental alienation, and I think she has a large following, so it's a big deal, but over 20 people sent me this video, so I knew I need to cover this. So let's just get right into Teal Swan, parental alienation, and we're gonna watch this together, and I'm breaking it down from the child's point of view, so the child who had been alienated. Here we go, let's check it out.
Parental alienation is a strategy of a parent destroying their child's relationship with the other parent by turning the child against the other parent because it serves that parent's personal agenda to do. As insanely difficult as it can be, when two parents have a child together, what you want to strive for is each parent supporting the child's relationship with the other parent. It is terrible for a child to feel caught in the middle of two parents. If you are a parent talking negatively about the other parent to the child or withholding the child from the other parent, this is extremely damaging to a child. The child is half one person and half the other. They're identified, in essence, with both, right? They're made up of that stuff. Because of this, it puts the child at war with themselves.
Wow, she really gets it. That's exactly right. As a child, you know that you come from both of your parents. You have them inside of you. You're made of both of your parents. So when you're told that one of your parents is bad, abusive, unloving, has left you, it doesn't love you, the child will internalize that. They'll start to believe that they're bad because if they come from this bad parent, they must be bad too. So far, this is really accurate.
Them in half emotionally and throws poison into a relationship that is very important for them in so many ways.
Yes, exactly. They poison the relationship that the child has with their other parent. It's a really terrible form of extreme triangulation. And what happens is that the child, because they believe that their other parent is bad, crazy, doesn't love them, has abused them or their parent, they are scared to be around their targeted parent and often angry at their targeted parent. I can't speak for all alienated children, but I know that for me, in my head, if I was going with my dad, I would be saying that's okay. My mom created inside of me fear and anger at my dad. So the way that I rejected my dad, how I spoke to my dad, what I didn't say, what I didn't do, and the way that I treated my dad made him believe that I didn't love him and that I didn't want a relationship with him. So my mom was able to convince both of us, parent and child, that we didn't love each other. Sick, twisted. How a parent could do this is beyond me.
These kinds of unconscious dynamics, such as complaining about the other parent or contention over custody time or power struggles, though detrimental and very detrimental, this is something that you see in a great many family system dynamics. But this is not parental alienation. Parental alienation is a whole other ball of wax.
I was just about to say, what she's describing here are alienating behaviors. There's a difference between alienating behaviors that are done mostly unconsciously. You're not aware that you're doing it and you're not aware of the harm it's causing on the child. There's a difference between those behaviors and parental alienation. When a lot of parents do these unconscious behaviors, even normal range parents who are just having a really tough time with a divorce, they may make these mistakes and do alienating behaviors, but the difference is that those parents often, once they realize the damage they're causing, they will stop doing the alienating behaviors. Parental alienation, in my opinion, in what I've read, and what I know, is a continuous, obsessive effort to completely control your child's mind, their beliefs, their thoughts, their emotions, to possess their child's mind and to get them to fully reject their other parent via a campaign of denigration, implanting false memories, a whole bunch of different tactics. And in my opinion, in the severe cases of parental alienation especially, this is not something that you can point out to these alienators. Even if you point out the damage they're causing, they will not stop. They will not stop. There is even a dangerous element to this where a lot of these alienating parents truly believe what they're telling their children. After the divorce or during the divorce or maybe at the end of the marriage, these parents come to truly believe that their ex does not love their children anymore. They truly believe their lies. It's pathological level lying. They're living in a world of delusions.
Parental alienation is a highly sophisticated abuse process. Remember that the intention, and believe me, it will be a carefully disguised one, is to turn the child against the other parent so that the child picks their side and then rejects a relationship with the other parent. Here is a list of things that all people need to know about parental alienation. 1. Parental alienation is a form of abuse. It is nothing less than this. Parental alienation is essentially the Stockholm Syndrome of the family systems world, and the level of damage that it will do to all the people involved, most especially any children involved, is acute, let me assure you.
Thank you, Teal Swan. She's absolutely right. It's severe child psychological abuse, not to mention abuse of the other parent as well.
Essentially, the alienating parent is a parent who is playing a zero-sum game. They are going for their own best interests to the exclusion of everyone and anyone else's best interests, including their child's. And they are not connected enough to anyone else in the situation so as to perceive the negative impact of what they are doing. They lack empathy. This is true even with regards to their own children. Do not be fooled by them, because they will take great performative care to make it look like they are the only one who is thinking about the best interest of their child.
That hits really hard because I was always told, I'm the only person who ever cares about you. I'm the only person who has ever cared about you. I am the only person who's ever been there for you when you needed help. I'm the reason you're still alive. I love you more than anyone. You know, no one loves you more than me. I'm the only one that's been there for you. And yeah, so that comes with the isolation aspect. And she's right. The alienator, at least from my experience, is a completely different person in public, in front of people that they want to charm, versus in private, especially when it's just the two of you. It's very confusing as a child to see different versions of your parent in the same day, and sometimes in the same hour. It's who are you? Which version of you is real? Which version of my mom is real? Kids in this situation more often than not, do not stand a chance. It becomes a survival mechanism to lose hope and to side with the alienator.
And due to their own projected traumas, may in fact actually believe this. They will make their self-gratifying aims seem self-sacrificing, but the reality underneath that carefully crafted veneer is that they are perfectly willing to destroy their own child's well-being for their own vendetta. The child has become, in essence, a pawn in a game that is scary, dangerous, and damaging for the child. Because the alienating parent has no real sense of other, being that they exhibit a narcissistic relational style, the child will be in an extreme form of enmeshment with the alienating parent, and that child's feelings and desires and needs and perspectives and thoughts and boundaries and truths, they're going to be invalidated to the point that they will simply become a reflection of the alienating parents.
Oh boy, I should probably do a whole video on that right there at the end. Okay, yes. She's spot on. So far, everything she said is spot on. But I want to add that not all alienated kids will fall in line with this enmeshment. I've spoken to plenty of former alienated kids now, some of whom did become completely enmeshed with that parent and thought that parent was their best friend, for example. But then others of us really that enmeshment process. It was something, that enmeshment, that wanting me to be the same person as her, and any value, thought, belief, idea, any originality I had that went against her belief system and her thoughts and her ideas was seen by her as a threat, instead of me having my own sets of values and beliefs because I'm Madison and you're my mom. And this is generational because my grandma wanted the same thing for my mom and my mom submitted. They're the same person, essentially. So they have that extreme enmeshment. You can't tell them apart. But some kids do fight. I was one of these kids. I fought every day of my life. And my mom would always tell me, "Why do you hate me? Why do you hate your mother so much? Why are you so mean to me? I wish my daughter loved me more." It was obvious to her, but to her, it wasn't me putting up boundaries. It wasn't me expressing my own values and beliefs and normal stuff that I would say is actually healthy for teenagers and young adults to start to individuate from their parents. But to her, that was a threat. And to her, that was me saying, "I don't love you." In her view, me refusing to be in this enmeshed relationship was me saying, "I don't love you." To me, it was me saying, "I want to love myself too." But to her, it was, "I don't love you."
They become like a puppet in a ventriloquist act. Their authenticity is being suppressed. This is a child who, regardless of what you may see on the outside, does not feel safe.
Yes, that's true. They do not feel safe. And once you reach adulthood, you will still not feel safe with that parent. If you learn the truth, you're definitely not going to feel safe with that parent. And while you might eventually want to forgive them or be able to forgive them, can you ever regain that trust? I don't think I could ever regain that trust.
And guess what? This child is not in a safe situation. This child has had to suppress their love for the alienated parent as well as the desire to be close with them. This child has had to suppress their fragile subjective experience because not doing so would lead to very huge consequences from the alienating parent.
Yes, I've described this as a metaphorical knife at your back. So growing up, it's like you have a metaphorical knife and you're being held at your back as an alienated kid. And if you show any happiness or any desire to be with your targeted parent or any laughing or smiling around them, the knife gets a little bit closer. If you go with them, the knife is twisted in a little bit. If you don't please your alienator parent in a way that you know would be hurting your targeted parent, that knife is going to be twisted in a little more. The reason I know that metaphorical knife truly exists and was there the whole time at my back is because the minute I learned the truth, the knife was taken and stabbed into my gut, into the front of me. Not in the back anymore where I couldn't see. That knife was stabbed into my gut and twisted into my guts intimately. I was intimately gutted by my mom because the moment I figured everything out and I tried to confront her and talk with her, there was zero accountability, zero apologies. There will never be any accountability. No accountability, no apologies. And then she knifed me, smeared my reputation, created lies about me to the family. She did to me what she did to my dad 20 years earlier. And this is quite common for kids who grow up to learn the truth. It's often impossible. They realize it's impossible to have both of my parents and be able to love both of my parents, because if you do figure out the truth and you want to reconnect with your targeted parent, a lot of times, most of the time, one of two things happens, or maybe both things happen, where your alienated parent is going to try to sabotage that reconnection process at every turn. Some of my friends, their alienator parent was successful at doing this, and they were alienated again from their targeted parent. So beware for that. And another thing can happen. Just like when a narcissist is found out by their romantic partner in a marriage, and then they completely discard their partner and do a smear campaign, silver bullet, whatever they need to do to feed their own ego, protect their own ego. They do that same thing to their child when their child learns the truth. So that's what they do. They abuse their child into the point where their child discovers the abuse. And then when their child discovers how mistreated they've been, how lied to, the parent rejects them, smears their name, makes up lies. And this is true. I don't know why they have to put their pride ahead of their relationship with their child. I don't understand it. I don't think I ever will.
There would be retaliation towards the child. There would be this treatment as if they were betraying the alienator, and therefore they'd be treated as an enemy.
She just confirmed what I was saying. So the metaphorical knife becomes a real knife the second you learn the truth, and that's when you realize, oh, the knife was there all along.
It was essentially an emotional and mental hostage of the alienating parent. Because of all of this, there will be no differentiation between themselves and this alienating parent, and this deep level of alliance, as well as a sense of belonging, which is actually enmeshment, will feel really good and really safe to the child.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that. I think that she's speaking about the child from the favorited child point of view. But that is not how I would describe my relationship with my mom. Absolutely not. So I think it's very different for a favorited child. They always have a favorited and a scapegoated, because that's how you know it's a toxic family system if they have a favorited child, a scapegoated child. I think it's much different for a favorited child who is alienated to align. It might be much easier to align with that parent and to feel loved by that parent. And you're getting those positive reinforcements and feelings of love way more often than the scapegoated child who is alienated. I think, speaking from this child who was alienated, I did not feel that safety and love ever. And I would say that I never gave up my individual identity. Maybe parts of it, sure. Maybe she succeeded in parts of the enmeshment, sure. But I still retained my own values and beliefs. I fought hard, and I was definitely demonized for that. There was never any line in the sand that could be drawn where you're not going to talk bad about your kid. There's never anything like that. Like, she would just talk bad about me to everybody, which is very hurtful. And so I think there's a difference there for the scapegoat kid. And I think that the scapegoated child has a better chance than the favorited child of learning the truth and escaping.
The kicker is that this enmeshed relationship will usually be mistaken, even by professionals, as evidence of a good relationship. This is a child who is developing a codependent relational style as a means of staying safe with the alienating parent. They are in a fused state with the alienating parent. And let me remind you again, they are in fact in a complex hostage situation. 3. The parent who is doing the alienating is not a safe individual, most especially for the child. And the child feels this at a deep visceral level, even though it is too threatening to be aware of this on a conscious level.
She must have some personal experience with parental alienation, because this is so spot on. Knowing you're not safe. Since I was a child, anytime that I would be touched or hugged or held by my mom, I would flinch. I do not like physical contact, but it's specific to her. I can be hugged or touched by my kids or my husband, even friends, and it's fine. I feel love. But anytime my mom would touch me, hug me, I stopped breathing. I would even tell her this: Mom, I really don't like hugs. I really don't like touching. And she would hug me more, squeeze me harder, hold me longer.
The child learns very quickly that there are consequences, and big ones, for staying aligned with and connected to their other parent. And so turning against the other parent is actually something they are doing for the sake of their own survival. To do this, they must sever all sense of affinity, allegiance, and connection with the parent that is being alienated. To be in confluence with and therefore safe with the alienating parent, they must adopt the narrative belonging to that parent, which is that the other parent is inadequate, is a horrible person, is super abusive, as well as the secret agenda of that alienating parent. That the child wants to punish the other parent and wants to have nothing whatsoever to do with that other parent. Something that
It's interesting. I've never thought of it as punishing my dad. Again, for me, it was always just standing up to injustice, because I was made to believe all these terrible things, that he's a terrible person, doesn't love me, and abusive. Personally, I never was doing it to punish my dad. I never wanted to hurt my dad. That was not the goal. But that was definitely the goal for my mom. Let's not get things too twisted.
This is very difficult for people to understand, but that they must understand when it comes to this dynamic is that children will align with the abusive parent in order to stay safe. Or parental alienation is a game of deception, and this game is a process. And unfortunately, almost everyone involved in a parental alienation dynamic, this means relatives, kids, friends, coworkers, and yes, even professionals like lawyers, mediators, judges, therapists, counselors, social workers, and the like, will be fooled by that deception.
Yes!
This is the main reason why, if you are a parent that is being alienated, it will feel like either you or everyone else has lost their minds. The parent that is doing the alienating has a primary goal. This goal is to be seen by everyone around them as the good guy. This means they must get everyone around them to see the other parent as the bad guy, so as to manipulate them into participating in their aim.
Yeah, the whole extended family has bought my mom's lies hook, line, and sinker. Since that has changed, people have realized what she did.
This means that every strategy they come up with to achieve this negative aim must not look like it.
Definitely a strategy they use. And it's interesting because I think the targeted parent and the alienated child both experience very similar effects from this abuse and this trauma, often developing CPTSD, often developing health issues, autoimmune disorders, even experiencing suicidal ideation, a lot of depression and anxiety and other mental health struggles. But there's one difference between what the targeted parent and the alienated child go through, and that's that the child has a brain that is not developed, and they are also under extreme mind control. As you are recovering from all of this and rebuilding your relationship with your targeted parent, if your targeted parent has never been through that level of mind control as a child, they will not fully understand what you have been through. And I'm speaking from the point of view of someone who's going through this now. My dad, he understands to an extent the abuse and the trauma, but he cannot understand a young brain, the effects of the brainwashing, as if he cannot understand that, because he had amazing parents and a great childhood. So that is one key difference. I think if parents could be more informed about the long-lasting and destructive effects of brainwashing a developing mind, I think maybe a lot of target parents could access more empathy for their kids and more understanding of what it's like to have that happen to you.
And they take great care to make sure that all this will happen, to make it look like they are the good person and the good parent, and make sure the other one looks like the bad person and the bad parent. The alienating parent will convince themselves and everyone else that the parent being alienated is truly the one that is horrible, inadequate, and abusive, and that they need to protect this child from that parent. They will then enroll everyone in the game of doing so. And as a society, we play right into this game of deception with our own ignorance to this particular dynamic, as well as our reluctance to accept that parents can do things like this in the first place, or that it's even possible for a parent to set up a hostage situation regarding their own child.
When someone makes a very outlandish claim about someone, I don't know about you, but my first instinct is to believe it, because otherwise you're making up this extravagant and disgusting lie. For what reason? It's not something people understand, parental alienation. So how can we expect children who are going through it to figure it out? Truly, if we know that regular adults on the street fail to comprehend this type of abuse, how can we expect children or even adult children who are alienated to figure it out? And you got to remember, when you're under this level of abuse and mind control from a young age, this stunts your development. This can stunt your cognitive development. A typical brain is not done developing until age 25 or 26 for men. But if you've been through this level of ongoing abuse and trauma, your brain is stunted in many different ways. Please try to understand that just because your child has become an adult does not mean that they should be held to a higher standard, especially if they've never been given the other side of the story, especially if they haven't heard from you since they were a child. How can you expect them to know the truth if they've never heard it, if they've never heard both sides of the story?
Most people have no idea that they are being triangulated, and for one glaring reason. People who are skilled at triangulation as a means of manipulation will never make it obvious that they are trying to turn someone against someone else so as to get their own needs met. Instead, they will gaslight, and they will lie, and they will do and say anything that makes it look otherwise, so as to never have their tactic be seen. And the most common camouflage that they use is two things. The first thing is other people's triggers, and the second thing is any actual issues that may be there. So let's look at the first form of camouflage. The parent who is doing the alienating will sense the motivations and the values and the needs and the insecurities and the pain points of the person in front of them and play those in their favor. Let me give you an example. Okay, let's say that they will keenly ascertain that a professional they are dealing with has a real personal trigger around absenteeism and has dedicated their entire life to bringing families together. The alienator will then highlight any hint of absenteeism in the other parent and even set up scenarios like giving the other parent wrong information, like the wrong time to be somewhere, so that absenteeism is what that professional sees. Of course, this is going to strike such a chord with the professional, even trigger them, that they are likely to develop an issue with that parent without realizing that the fire between them and that parent has in fact been created
Wow. So I'm halfway through that video and I might do a part 2. Leave in the comments what you think about all of this. Does this resonate with you as a parent? Or if you've been through this as a child, does this resonate with you as a child? If you'd like me to do a part 2, leave in the comments below and I'll cover the rest of the video. She's really well spoken. I think she's eloquent and she was able to really verbalize a lot of what I have experienced. I love what she said about the Olympic level triangulation. I actually have made a video, like when I just started, like 10 months ago, I made a video about how alienation is triangulation, and you can go watch that if you want to. Yeah, that was a really good video. Thank you everybody who sent me that video. So far it has 30,000 views, so that's a lot of people who have learned about parental alienation. Well, go Teal Swan. That's the end of this video. I hope you found it helpful or insightful in some way, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.